When you've got a problem, think silicones. When you've got a question, think silicones. Because you see, silicones by GE are unquestionably the answer.
Heat-cured rubber resins and chemical silicones. Seeing what they can do for you will surely change your tone.
O-rings, baby bottle nipples to help you serve your baby's meals. Coffee for your tub or shower. Electric iron seal.
Baking pan release.
Okay, before we get started here, let me read off a list of today's sponsors. General Motors, General Mills, General Patton, Allied Chemical, Allied and its sister company Axt, McDonald's, McDougal's, Walmart, Procter, Gamble, and Huff, and some guy named Mike. There you go. And welcome to the Oddity Archive, the show that creams and dreams all in one fell swoop. That sounded dirty, didn't it? Oh well. To date here on the archive, no matter how weird, misguided, or impractical the day's topic has been, there always at least seemed to be some degree of logic to its existence. Indeed, invariably they always seem to point at something greater. Until now. Seriously, I can't figure out why today's topic even exists. I can only guess. Case in point... like something out of a Mel Brooks movie, isn't it?
Usually the public isn't invited to these shows, but we've been able to get you the best seats in the house.
It's time for a change! Time to renew! Dr. Pepper packaging, now come into view!
Despite the expensive meals, vacations, hookers, and booze used to gain new clients, corporate entertainment hasn't always been about entertaining the preferably wealthy outsiders. Primarily between the mid-1950s and early 80s, various corporations would indulge themselves in their own, often lavish productions, touting their products' efficiency and, oh yeah, occasionally their employees. These, often literal production pieces, were indeed meant as a morale booster, particularly to salesmen. They just didn't seem to work out that way. For example, I couldn't figure out why salesmen would need to watch a film or listen to a record that tried to sell them on their own product. On the consumer front, I couldn't figure out how something like Design for Dreaming would ever cross the average person's radar, particularly in the pre-infomercial era of television. Ultimately, my amazing deductive reasoning powers led me to believe that this was all one big, rather off-kilter vanity project for the manufacturers, chemical, utility, and oil companies of America. Read completely non-functional.
But companies say they pay off.
While I mentioned that industrial musicals more or less dried up sometime in the first half of the 1980s, that doesn't mean they completely stopped making them, it's just that they were largely replaced with various entertainers just doing their usual thing in lieu of full-on company propaganda.
Hello, well do. Hi, all. How are you? We're glad to see you looking well.
If my research is at all accurate, a lot of these industrial musicals, as they've come to be known, were mostly performed live at industry conventions, and as such were rarely captured for posterity. And because invariably these old businessmen were completely hammered come mid-late evening when the shows were, employee anecdotes on these things are virtually non-existent. And you know what? If I were some businessman, salesman for, I don't know, Chevrolet, I'd want to be good and drunk too before being subjected to something like this.
On the great Atlantic coast. In the Great Lakes region, we got Chicago's yards and Wisconsin cheeses and Iowa corn.
But before we get into the few industrials, if you will, that were actually filmed, let's take a look at the ones that were captured for posterity via souvenir record albums. Now, these things are just stupidly rare. I mean, I personally don't have any. And indeed, of the albums that were made, the number of surviving copies of most of these things you could literally count on one hand. So, getting down to business here, this first one I think encapsulates the whole feel and sound of one of these things. So, without further ado, from 1961, from Coca-Cola, this one's called The Grip of Leadership. You know, like the grip on an old Coke bottle. And this one will just fill you with empty patriotism, whether you like it or not.
From the Empire State to the Golden Gate, from sea to shining sea, Coca-Cola's on the move to meet the changing trends. And as we expand in this growing land, Coca-Cola makes new friends. While America's growing shore to shore, Coca-Cola keeps growing.
Needless to say, these things are pretty dated across the board.
Sumitai Coca-Cola, no mi mashu.
Tome Coca-Cola bien fría.
Stu Coca-Cola carcaquera.
Yes, it's the same in any language.
There's 2 more Coca-Cola albums. God have mercy on us. And this next one is from 1966, and it's pretty well interchangeable with the last one.
And only the leader, the face of the leader, appears and reappears. Times are changing all around us at an ever-growing pace. We can beat them if we stay a step ahead of the race.
No, Delbert, I'm not going to buy your brand of soft drinks for my shop.
But Auntie...
I'm going to buy from that nice salesman for Coca-Cola.
But Auntie Olson, I'm your nephew, and besides, what does he do that I don't?
He helps me every way he can. The charming Coca-Cola man. He brought me a display to help things sell. Not only did he bring it in, he set it up.
Remember when I hung that sign, standing dripping wet? Is this the thanks I get?
With a piece of rotten string, you hung that thing, and my big toe ain't healed yet, but the Coca-Cola man is bright.
Oh, Lord have mercy on the Coke distributor. Anyway, this last Coke album dates to 1971, and it actually shakes things up a bit, with a holiday and lounge band that so desperately wants to sound like Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Hey now, work side by side, got a feeling must confide, a new division's multiplying, and we call it people power.
Did I mention that most of the cuts on here have absolutely nothing to do with Coca-Cola, employee morale, or anything at all? Indeed, if it weren't for the Coke logo on the album cover, I'd swear that this was just some forgotten album from some forgotten, mediocre, early 70s rock group. Exhibit A, Your Honor?
Why must I tell you yes or no, this or that, here or there? Can't make up my mind, don't you see that it's driving me crazy? I would like to know if it's real or just a reflection. Tell me if it's black or white or just an illusion. wish I knew just which way to go to get rid of these colors. I don't want no part of this confusion.
And of course, these industrial musicals and their makers were always just so terminally hip. They were always right on the cutting edge. I mean, they were only about 3-4 years late for the psychedelic movement. Da 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 da. Supposedly, these industrial musicals helped launch the careers of the likes of, well, I could only confirm one, sort of. But seriously, who'd have thought that Mrs. Brady herself, Florence Henderson, would have launched her career with one of these things? Apparently singing from the inside of a meat locker, no less.
Back to Rockport, Indiana.
No, you can't go back. I'll get the story on Oldsmobility. I've got to get a car. I've got to get a car to get a gal. Gotta get a gal somehow. Now's the time. I'm in my prime. Gotta get a gal. Right now to get that gal. Get a gal. Right now. Gotta get a gal. Gotta get a gal. Gotta get a gal. Gotta get a gal. Oh, gotta get that car. Gotta get that gal. I feel.
And last, but definitely not least, here is the greatest hit of the industrial musical movement. And speaking of movements, how apt that it come from a company that makes toilets. So, from the 1969 American Standard Plumbing Products Convention in sunny Las Vegas, Nevada, home of the Pea Trough, here is My Bathroom is a Private Kind of Place.
I can really be me. My bathroom is much more than it may seem. Where I wash and where I cream, a special place where I can stay and cream and dream.
Good thing it wasn't a guy singing that. We'd be getting indecency complaints left and right for that one. And indeed, with that, it's time for a bathroom break of our own. We'll be right back.
Yes, Old Gold, the cigarette with nearly 200 years of tobacco know-how behind it. Made by tobacco men, not medicine men. Smoother, milder, tastier, Old Gold cigarette. Old Gold, the cigarette that treats you better in every way, because in every way, it's a better cigarette.
Well, just as the money was getting good, our sponsors have all bailed. Wonder why. If you hadn't gathered it from the first half of this episode, industrial musicals generally weren't exactly the child of inspiration. Indeed, these things were usually written by jingle writers or aspiring Broadway composers that just needed a paycheck. Now, having said that, there were actually a few people that made a whole career out of writing these things, but generally, again, it was people looking for a paycheck. The actors were usually professionals that were between bigger shows and were just marking time. Now, having said all that, anybody that can write an epic tune about silicones or anyone that can keep a straight face singing it has my instant respect.
When you got a problem, think silicones. When you got a question, think silicones. Because you see, silicones by G are unquestionably the answer. Fluids and rubber, silicones.
Resins, chemicals, silicones.
And RTV, silicones from G, they're unquestionably the answer.
Now here are a few things you may not know about silicone fluids and where they go. They're used as a defoamer when your instant coffee boils. Also for textile dyeing, petroleum and cooking oils. Insulates the transformer on your TV set. Makes custom ski boots the best you can get. It's the coating on your waistband to make your waistband hold.
Environmental coating to protect from hot and cold.
It's the stabilizer in vinyl and latex foam. Furniture polish, shave and hand cream. It's in every corner of your home. Water repellents, aerosol sprays, the number is fantastic. The release agent for rubber.
That song goes on for 6 glorious minutes. Now, I think as far as my little end of the world is concerned here, I think these would actually be better served with full-fledged riffs. But at 10 minutes plus a piece in several of these that I'd like to show you, it would make for a very, very long archive episode, and I don't want to do that to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you just some bits from these that I found amusing, admittedly slightly out of context. No commentary, no nothing. And let's get started here. This first one is from 1961 and was made by General Motors, and this was shown at the 1961 Motorama Auto Show in New York, and it has a whole section in it devoted to appliances, because when I think General Motors, I think dishwashers.
After the party is over and done with, what a mess the place is in. That's when the cleanup blues begin.
But the Frigidaire house has gadgets to use that will drive away your cleaning up blues. Just pick up the plates, the button is pressed.
And the dishwashing unit does all the rest.
The glassware, silverware clean themselves.
Washed and dried, they're back on the shelves. You'll be my strong and gallant knight, so tender when our hearts are light, so brave when you must fight an evil Your magic sword will save the day.
This next one comes from the later period of industrials. Now, in 1978, Allied Chemical made this little film about energy conservation, which is slightly ironic given that this company was mostly specializing in oil and gas exploration by this point. And I think they pretty much blew their entire budget on the music and the whopping 3 actors that appear in this thing, because they were kind of forced to go with the whole disembodied head, black background motif.
You know, this energy thing sure does confuse a lot of people. I mean, one week it's a crisis, and the next week it's no problem. Well, remember all those lines down at the gas station? Then all of a sudden we have more gas than we can accelerate away. I mean, the gulf between our needs and what's available is wide. Its name is the Persian Gulf. One day they say, you've got to conserve. Next day they say they've got a lot in reserve. Well, what's the story? What's the truth? First they say, without any doubt, use any more and you're sure to run out. What's the story? What's the truth?
Hi-ho, hi-hoo, let's waste a BTU.
Then they say, it's all right. Start your engines and turn on the light.
But what's happening?
Well, it looks like you're losing your light.
Which is exactly what you deserve.
What a waste, the way you threw it away. What a waste, you could have saved the day.
See the light. Seeing the light. Seeing the light.
Yeah, yeah.
Seeing the light. I hear what you say. Seeing the light.
Oh, yeah.
Do you take me for a fool or something? The whole thing is a hoax perpetrated by the power brokers and the lobbyists.
You are hopeless.
Come on! Where's the sense of the humor?
What a waste.
I consider myself to be a pretty die-hard Tom Lehrer fan. I mean, anybody that can write a song about having loved holding your wife's hand so much that when she dies, you cut it off and carry it around with you, you've got an instant fan for life in me. Now, Tom actually made an industrial musical for Dodge Motors in 1967. And on the one hand, it's a damn sight better than anything else you'll see in today's show. But on the other hand, it's really not up to Tom's usual standards.
Dodge swingers, they're all humdingers. Only squares today. Drive a Chevrolet. If you want to be bored, get a Ford.
I make blanket statement using Navajo blanket. Dodge Coronet will sweep market like prairie fire.
These square old fossils didn't know what they were headed towards until they all bought Dodges to put in their garages.
I tell you how to get big reward for catching customer. Easy. Take Polara, biggest, most luxurious car in the class that gets 21% of the market. A real steal.
The poor little missy.
They all called me Prissy.
Till Dodge put a dart in her heart.
Blackboard boys. Dodge Dart for 1967 is a new car. A really new car. And it's the most beautiful of all the compacts.
And all of Cactus Bend says they're the living end since they joined the Dodge Rebellion.
I'm a first-grade school teacher.
Now, this last set of clips comes from a film that wasn't just an internal industrial musical, but was seen publicly, obviously quite frequently, at the World's Fair in New York in 1964. Now, this thing was made by DuPont Chemical, and it's actually very innovative. It's pretty surprising. And it's innovative in that it's kind of an early attempt at interactivity. So what you're going to see is the host or up to 4 actors interacting with 3 screens that have film projected onto them from time to time, oftentimes in sync, and it's really something to behold. Now, having said that, between this and trying to get the songs right, it kind of catches up with the host, and he, on at least one occasion, realizes just how absurd the whole thing is.
Mrs. Winston.
Yes? Coconut cream.
Good, good. Savolux, to fill the need for dyes that last in no facet colors that are unsurpassed. Savolux says Flair. Freon, to fill the
Another please.
Uh-oh, you're back again. All cleaned up, I see.
Yes.
Well?
We want to play our Freon Serenade. Come on, girls.
But Mrs. Weston and girls, Freon is a propellant that makes aerosol cans work like hairspray. Oh, you know.
Of course we know. Oh, what's that?
Fashion.
Ah!
Did he say fashion?
With Pantone and nylon and lycra and orlon and Dacron, let's really stay.
300 years ago, when Sir Isaac Newton lay dying, very old and very famous, he said something to be remembered forever. These were...
Everyone knows what's that music they're playing. Where's that? Everyone goes down each street, the meter speed.
Marvelous.
If the archive actually had some semblance of a budget, and talent probably wouldn't hurt either, I certainly would not be opposed to us taking our own little stab at an industrial musical of our own. But we have that going against us, and then we have the fact that we're not a corporation, and this sure as hell isn't much of an industry, this whole internet reviewer racket. Indeed, we're kind of the folk music troubadours of this crazy little setup, and not necessarily by design. But I can't do an episode on industrial musicals and not have a little song for you. Very little. So, I hope you enjoy it. This one goes out to the corporate sponsors that we've lost over the course of the day. And, again, I hope you like it. Oh, my dear corporate sponsors, please take me back. I really don't like living on the wrong side of the tracks. Oh, my dear corporate sponsors, though I don't know who you are, I really don't like driving in my 1986 car. Oh, my dear corporate sponsors, I'm sinking in debt, and I don't really want to know how much worse things can get. Oh, my dear corporate sponsors, please take me in your arms, your charms. I'll be your personal slut. But be gentle. And this is where the strippers that we can't afford would come out and all that. And that was really all I had anyway. See you next time on the archive.
Gotta get that car. Gotta get that gal I feel. The what? Make a haste. Gotta get that gal. Lucy.
Gotta get a gal, gotta get a gal, gotta get a gal, gotta get a gal, gotta get a gal.